Welcome. Thank you for taking Saturday and hanging out with Bob and I here. So Bob's going to be, he's my sales manager. He'll be the one running the camera and stuff. So what we'll do is when I did this last year, basically I started with more of the adaptive driving, more of the low tech, but then we also can gravitate into more of the higher tech type of driving equipment and all the different options in terms of like the vehicles and everything. So I'm going to turn the camera around right now, give this to Bob here. Alrighty. So when I do the in-services at Spalding, I usually bring like a hand control demo stand. Basically, the hand controls are pretty simple. They get mounted to the steering column. And what happens is you can operate the brake by one push of the lever. And then in this certain device, you pull forward for the gas. So this is called a push-pull type of hand control. There's also different types of hand controls where you can turn the bar right over here for gas. Brake is always forward. So turn for gas. This one you pull down for gas. You rock for gas. So there's all different types of hand controls that can be installed in a vehicle that has power steering, power brakes, automatic transmission. So we are working on a vehicle right now in our shop. This is a BMW that they brought in. So basically there's the spinner knob that they could use to drive. And then as you can see, we've already installed the hand controls. So brake is forward. And then this is the gas. So this person will actually transfer into the vehicle. If they have a manual chair, they probably break it down. But yeah, anything that's got your regular gas and brake, there's no clutch. You can pretty much put hand controls in so many different applications. Then what we'll do is we'll gravitate towards, this is your conventional hand control. Then we're going to gravitate towards something where it is more of a high-tech type of driving system where if you're more of a high-level injury and it's tough to do regular mechanical controls, you'll see that we're doing another vehicle here where everything is done electronically. So this certain client, they're going to lock in with their wheelchair. They're going to drive from their wheelchair. They're going to drive the entire vehicle with the joystick right over here. So instead of the regular hand controls that we just saw, they're going to drive the whole thing with a joystick. And then there's a touch screen that you can hit that wakes it all up, and you can put everything into gear and stuff and start the vehicle. So there's two types like we just looked at, the regular mechanical, which is what a lot of people do, or more of the high tech type of driving. Now, any of the driving equipment, you have to be certified by a certified driving rehab specialist. And I have a list of all the ones in New England that I can send out. They basically will meet and they'll drive and assess to tell you exactly what is needed. And then a company like Mobility Works, they would install it, but there's always training involved and stuff. So if you got equipment like this installed in we'll say a vehicle that you drive into, like this type of minivan, like this is a Honda, they drive right into the ramp is on the side of the vehicle. So you would drive up the ramp, come inside and lock in the wheelchair in this certain device. There's also another type of option where if you come into the vehicle and you want to transfer from your wheelchair to the seat, we're going to go to the next van. where you can come into the vehicle and there's a transfer seat that would so somebody could transfer from the wheelchair to the transfer seat. So this is a 6-way power transfer seat. And then what happens is this, you can drive. And if we'll have Bob.
I'm gonna come around.
So this is another hand control that we just did for a client. The spinner knob, the hand control, and then you would have the transfer seat. So there's different types if you're driving from your wheelchair, which we just saw, or using a transfer seat once you come into a vehicle. Also, we'll go to.
What are you doing, a reorg? Reorganization? Reorganization.
Now we have a system where if you're using a manual chair, it's tough to get into one of these accessible vehicles. We have this thing called a power pole that you could put on the wheelchair. And basically it's got a little remote and it'll pull it. It's like, think of it like a wrench and stuff. So it just kind of pulls you inside the vehicle and stuff with this wrench. You'll see how it's pulling you up. So I know I've seen some of my clients that do the wheelchair rugby, and after a day of matches and stuff, they'll use this to get into their vans with this wrench system. So this is our demo van. So just to kind of give you a sense of the options, this one actually has a transfer seat as well that we can do. Now there's another type of device which I've done for some of my spinal cord clients over the years. They put a special seat like into a pickup truck, for example. And this seat, you can put it on the driver's side, and it's got a remote. And the whole seat will come out and lower. And I've seen some of my clients actually have a lift, like say in a pickup truck, to pick up their wheelchair. So if this was on the driver's side, they could actually use something other than your conventional minivan. And they could put this into a variety of applications, bigger SUVs, pickup trucks and stuff. You can lower it at any point in time. Basically, what a lot of our families have done is they'll transfer into this, and then they can have a lift that picks their wheelchair in and stuff. So this is an external rotating seat, while the ones in here are internal if you're driving.
Recording in progress.
They'll go all back in and stuff. So this could definitely be used to get away from your conventional minivan. If you can transfer and have a lift, bring your wheelchair in, you can use one of these. This is another option. So. Does take a little bit of time, but once it's all programmed, so basically it'll make sure that it clears all of the doors and all the obstructions. So see how it's turning and stuff. With a seat like this, what you really got to do is make sure that you'll just pull your feet in and stuff. So. And I'm 5'10", so I can fit into pretty much this type of application and stuff. So this is what that's called as a turning seat. Now, we have different types of vehicles as well too. The newest vehicles are like the Chevrolet Traverses. So it's an SUV. Basically, it's all done by power. So this is a new type of accessible vehicle compared to your minivans, which I've been working with for 20 years and stuff. So. Everything can be done from the outside too. So you can always be independent. And that's the goal, is just to have you fully independent with any of these products that we have. These types of vehicles, along with the minivans, the vehicle actually lowers to make it easier to get in. Now, these vehicles, both of the seats can be removed. So you could be a driver from your wheelchair. It's as easy as removing the power seat cable. So the whole seat can come out where you can drive from your wheelchair, or you could use the seat with a transfer base to spin around and get into there. So you do have options. Now the new Toyotas, this is one of the Toyotas. These are actually a hybrid vehicle. So last year they came out with the hybrids, which will definitely, you don't have to plug it in, and it's all automated as well.
Eric.
Yeah.
Hi, just wondering if it's possible for you to speak a little bit closer to the
Sure.
phone or whatever you're using.
Yep.
Just to hear you. Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Thanks.
So the Toyota actually developed what's called as a hybrid minivan, where it's part gas, part electronics. You don't have to plug it in, but this is the first accessible vehicle that has the hybrid system. And it's basically, it's all been modified to come in with the wheelchair. You could be a passenger in the front, a driver, drive from your chair, transfer. This definitely is, these vehicles are rated for about 36 miles per gallon compared to the regular gas ones that we've had for years. And then I have another example I'll show you. We have a client that we just have that you'll see the lockdown on the floor. Now, this particular client will use a tri-pin for the steering wheel. And then he has his hand controls as well. What he does is, once he locks into this little device, as you can see, there's a button that you just hit and it lets you out. So now he can come out and stuff. This particular client, it's hard to shift the gears. So if you'll see right over here, it says PRND. You hit the button, that puts it into gears. So depending on the person, we can do a lot of the equipment, the driving equipment,
And for the vehicles, that will help accommodate each individual person and stuff. So hopefully that was informative and stuff. So I just wanted to kind of give you a range of all the different options that we have in terms of the controls, the electronic controls, the vehicles and stuff. So pretty much I think at this point is we've seen everything inside, but is there questions that you guys have that I can field?
Okay, so you want to take some questions now? Is that,
Yeah,
And then-
because I know I'm sure the questions will be, in
Yes.
terms of funding, driving evaluations, which I can get
Sure.
into. Yeah.
Okay, why don't we take some questions? Was there anything else that you wanted to speak about in
No,
particular, just to,
yeah, no, I've done everything. I think the next is the like voc rehab, driving evaluations, all that, which I can
Okay.
get to, but I'm sure
great,
people have some questions about that. So
sounds good, okay. Joe, and please, yeah, pop your questions in there. I'm gonna unspotlight you so I can see people's hands raised, if that's
Sure.
okay. And I'll spotlight you if needed. Okay, Joe, and then we have a question from David.
Yeah.
Joe, you're muted.
Thank
Just
you.
go. Oh, that's there. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, one is, a lot of us have core instability. We just don't have the ability to hold our core straight up and down. And the seatbelt usually does not allow for enough stability in there. What do you have as far as, or what do you suggest, or what's out in the market as far as harnesses or something that can hold us in a little bit tighter? Because I'll tell you, going through roundabouts will be a whole different ball game.
sure. Good question. So we work with a company out of California, and it's spelled NU-TECH. It's called New Tech Seating. What they do is they do a support, like a torso support belt that we actually have to measure the circumference of your chest. There's ways to apply it, but we can do that on transfer seats, on wheelchairs, and it's specifically for that purpose where it just locks you in, and it'll have Velcro and rings and everything. And that helps so that way you can, not come forward or go side to side. So it's called New Tech Seating.
Okay.
If you have a chance, yeah, just Google them. They have some great information on those types of torso support belts.
Yeah, because the only thing I've found so far is really related more toward younger kids, things like that. I did find one out of Sweden that had some, that's got a harness system for a seat, because I'm looking at a transfer seat to be in. So yeah, so I'll just definitely check that out. Thank you for that. And then my second question is, for distances, it's generally recommended that we sit on different cushions and not on the seat itself. And so I generally sit on a 4-inch Roho. Does the transfer seat go down far enough so that I can put my Roho on there and still get into the seat? Or is it much more snug transfer? I don't want to be banging my head on the ceiling.
Yeah. So good question. So when we order transfer seats from Bronability, they're the ones that are they bought out B&D, who's been doing it for years. So Bronability, what they'll do is when you order for specific vehicles, you could order with a shorter height or a regular height base. So basically what that means is, for example, for Toyota has a 14-inch base when they lower the floor, but then they also have an option where you have an 11-inch base. So you can order the transfer seat with the 11-inch base. And then anytime you want, to see, better, you can actually raise the transfer seat to see out a little better. and Braun will let you ride with the transfer seat in an upper position and stuff. So essentially, you can get a transfer seat with a shorter bracket as opposed to the regular long bracket.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's options out there for lower profile cushions and things like that and other options, but I had a mapping done. And so I know that the 2-inch is just not as good as my 4-inch. So I'm hoping to stay with that if at all possible. I don't know, there might be other suggestions out there too for cushions as we go along, but I'll leave it at that. Those are my questions. I thank you very much, Eric.
Oh, my pleasure. No, great questions. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna go to question from the chat and then I'm gonna go to back to Shane. So we've got, which minivan has the widest lift?
Great question. The Chrysler Pacifica has a 32-inch wide ramp while all the other ones are 30.
Okay, great. The next question is, what is manual wheelchair lock? What is the manual wheelchair lockdown called? I think that's the question. Is that, did I read that correctly?
Okay, so you can use, like the system that I have here, if you have basically, you can use a bracket that goes on a manual chair with a pin. So you can actually use.
Hold that thought 1 second. Are they able to see Eric?
Oh, sorry. You know what I'm doing? I'm gonna spotlight. Sorry. Go
There
ahead.
you go. Okay, you're ready.
Sorry about
now.
that.
Yep, I just wanted them to be able to see what he's pointing to.
Perfect.
So every minivan will basically have the tracks that are inside the floor.
I'll show you over here where it's in the light.
Yeah, so you can see the tracks here, and you can do tie down, your conventional tie downs that will go to the wheelchair and stuff, Now, you basically put it on the chair, there's 4 of them, and then you can tighten them up. Now, if somebody is a driver or somebody is a passenger, but the person that's helping them with the tie down, it's tough to do these tie downs. You can use a system like this, which is a power tie down. You basically, the manual chair would have a pin with a bracket on it, and they would just come right in and lock in. And then you would hit a button and it would just release it. So you have a power lockdown for manual chairs if you want to put a pin on the bottom, or your regular manual tie downs and stuff. Does that help answer the question, or?
David, did that answer your question? Okay, well, you can pop something in the chat or speak up if you have another question about that. Thank you. I'm going to go to Shane.
Hey, Eric, Shane here. Got our Chrysler Pacifica from you July. My wife and Yvette and I.
Yes.
So I had 2 questions. I'm in a Permobil F5 power chair.
Yep.
I'm 6 tall and long torsoed. So we, I've been using the Chrysler Pacifica for, several months now and stuff. Is there one of the problems we've run into, it's not a problem now, is that I wouldn't be able to drive it because sitting in it, I lose sight of traffic lights about 100 yards out because I'm so tall. And I don't like that. Are there vehicles that have more, I don't know if they'd be lower floors or they'd have windshield or something.
Good question. So the vehicle that you have has the deepest lowered floor, which is close to 15 inches and stuff. Basically, the Toyota is a little bit less in terms of eyesight. Honda and Chevy are basically even smaller and stuff. So the Chrysler is the most amount of headroom in a vehicle and the most amount of eye ellipse height. So I just don't know what type. Do you have a cushion that's like a 4-inch cushion that sit you up that high. I'm just trying to figure out other options. You're probably down as far you are in your Permobil chair. So
Yeah, the F5 is a bigger base, I think.
Shane, do you have a 14-inch floor on your current van? Sorry.
I'm newly injured, so we actually just bought, back in July, latest model Chrysler Pacifica. So it is floor. And I'm not on a Rojo yet. I'm actually on I'd say it's probably maybe a 2 or 3 inch, foam gel cushion right now.
yeah,
So-
'cause- yeah, the Pacifica gives you the most amount of drop floor in terms of coming through the door. The door is about 57 inches. The other
Yeah.
one, Toyota's 56. Chrysler, the Hondas are 55. So you definitely got the lowest lowered floor. It's just trying to figure out how to lower you in the chair and stuff. If that's
Do you have to elevate your chair to see over the dashboard, Shane?
No,
In
no.
a-
Well, I mean, I can get in and out fine. It's the headroom, which is why we went with the Pacifica, because Eric you brought both the Toyota and the Pacifica to Spalding for me to try out. And the Toyota was just like, I was rubbing my head on the Toyota ceiling. The Pacifica was much better. So it's more about my height. I'm so tall that the top of the windshield is so it's more in my vision than it would normally be. So I guess so when we're out just driving, I'm like, okay, I lost sight of the traffic lights now, and
Sure.
we're out that it's I wouldn't be able to see the traffic lights stop
Right,
stop
to be
them,
able to drive.
to be able to drive.
yeah.
Shane, how tall are you?
6 foot, but most of my height, a lot of my heights,
You're all upper body.
yeah.
Okay, because I'm saying I'm 6 feet and I have a Sienna that I just got from you guys up in Gray, Maine in September. And I have to elevate my chair to drive. I elevate my chair a good deal. Just so, because they have a sort of a bulbous hood on the Sienna. And it's the first Toyota I've driven, but I have to elevate my chair a good deal, probably 6 inches.
Huh.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but I know what you mean. If you pull up too close to a light, you can't see it. That's a pain in the neck, literally.
Yeah, they have any ability, even if you back
Come
that, right?
closer to see, maybe.
Right. How close to the steering wheel are you, Shane? Is it something that you could move closer up?
Well, I'm actually not able to do driving yet. Just
Okay.
too new in the injury and stuff like that. I'm sitting in the passenger side. And I pull in as far as I can.
But you have
but
this standing frame, so it has the wheels on the front.
yeah, I have the stand wheelchair, so it's got the casters in the front. So, I can't like pull in all the way where my feet are, up against the firewall.
Shane, I don't know that there's necessarily anything on that. Certainly take a look at it. My recommendation would be if you give us a call to Eric here in Londonderry next week, we can see about having you come in and take a look through the Pacifica, see what adjustments we may be able to make. When it comes time for you to do your driving evaluation, the evaluators may be able to come up with some recommendations or things that we can look at to change as well to help you with that. So.
Okay. Be great.
Thank you. Okay. Just gonna jump to one of the questions and then go back to people with their hands raised. Let's see, what is the cost of the Toyota?
So the cost of the Toyota differs in terms of the packages. Toyota's LE, XLE, there's like the limited. So that could range anywhere from 40 to 50,000, just the vehicle. And then you have the modifications like the lowered floor conversion. which takes about 4 to 5 weeks from a company like Braun. You know, and that will be about a $43,000 conversion as well. So typically new Toyotas we'll see, you know, starting in the 80,000 range, and they can go up from there. So.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I'm gonna go to Rob Hazen. Hi. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
First of all, thanks for putting this on, and hi, Eric. I appreciate your expertise here. In looking at the various solutions for adaptive driving, I was looking for one that would allow me to keep two hands on the wheel versus requiring one hand off the wheel for the brake and acceleration. And the reason for this, one was safety, and the other was just long-term driving. I got very tired when I had just one hand in a fixed position on the wheel. It was much easier for me and much more natural as ambulatory drivers do, keeping two hands on the wheel. And so I found a solution. They've been in business a long time out of Florida called Kempf.
Kempf,
And the
yep.
Darius ring. Yeah, I was just wondering if you were familiar with them and you had an experience with them.
So we were the North America's dealer for Guido Simplex. So they're a big company in Italy that did the same as Kempf. We've shipped vehicles down there for Kempf systems. So it's basically a gas ring that goes around and stuff, and then you have like a lever for the brake and stuff. I haven't done too many of those over the years. But let me just tell you, it does take in some getting used to. The problem with that is to get evaluated by a certified driving rehab specialist, they need to have one of those Kempf or Guido Simplex rings in an eval van. And unfortunately, there's no one in this area that can do the evaluation. We've done them before. It's just tough to get evaluated and stuff.
Okay, thanks. And what happens if you don't get evaluated?
Then a company like us, we can't install anything in a vehicle that's adaptive driving unless you've been evaluated and they write up a prescription. So think about it in this analogy. The evaluator is the doctor. They assess everything. They have a vehicle that they drive around, try you with it, do training with you after. They tell us what you need. They write a prescription. We're like the pharmacists. We take the prescription and we install it. So we can only install what is recommended because it's less liability for the person. Because if we'll say you went on the internet and you had hand controls and you put them in yourself or your friend put them in, you're liable if something happens, because in order to drive with adaptive driving equipment, you have to be evaluated. And then when you go to the road test at the registry, they mark your license and then they put a code on the back. So like adaptive driving, mechanical controls, whatever state it is. So just, you know, save yourself a lot of liability by just having the evaluation done, you know. So we when we put it in, we do it all according to the manufacturer standards. So liability is pretty much off of the client, the mobility dealer, and the evaluator, because we follow the process basically. So
okay, good. Thank you.
And
yeah,
Eric, can I chime in here for a second?
yeah.
In order, you have to be referred to the evaluator by like social service agency, correct?
Nope. You can just pick up the phone. Like today, I could call Central Mass Safety Council, and I can say, you know, to Don Sampson. He works a lot with Spalding. He comes in and works with Amy Donabinian to do the driving stuff for Spalding. So basically, I could pick up the phone and say, you know, my son He's got cerebral palsy. He's 16 now, but he's going to need to drive with adaptive driving equipment. So they would set up a meeting. The reason why I say that is one of my colleagues, his son is going through right now, and he just called one of the evaluators, said, "Can you do an evaluation for my son?" And they're like, "Absolutely." So you can just call one of the driving evaluators and schedule an assessment. They'll meet with you, then they'll do an on the road driving. So,
And that's pretty much regardless of what state you're in, or is it different state by state, the process?
no.
Okay.
I refer a lot of people to Central Mass Safety Council. There's another place called Easy Street, like for Rhode Island clients.
What's the street have?
Maine has Alpha One and stuff. So
Yeah, no, I used to work for Alpha One, and but I spent 20 years in Connecticut too also. So I've worked with all the guys down there.
Yep,
But
yep.
But I did Voc Rehab, and that's probably why I was referred that way.
Yes, yeah. So Voc Rehab and the VA. So basically the VA, they're another basically that what they'll do is with the VA, the primary care physician for the veteran will refer them to the VA driving rehab program. So, but if you're a regular consumer not going through a state agency or the VA, you can call, pick up the phone, my husband had a stroke. Can I get evaluated for a left foot gas pedal? And they'll do it. Yeah.
They do
Hey,
amazing
Eric,
stuff. Anyway.
Eric, I've got, excuse me, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just have one more question. So just from a process point of view, I've gone ahead, I've gotten evaluated, they wrote a prescription, I've come to you, you put the equipment in the car. Do I then make an appointment with the registry to be road tested, or how does that work?
Yes. Yeah. So there may be a process in between once we put it in and going for the road test. And that process could be training with the certified driving rehab specialist that did the evaluation.
Yep.
You may want to do follow-up training after we install it. But once you've done that, like some rehab specialists say, you know what, just put regular mechanical controls in. Once they're installed, go to the registry. We're fine. We don't need follow-up training, which you would then go to the registry and call them and do a road test. But I would always follow up with the evaluator to see if you need follow-up training or you can go straight to the registry. But no, good question, because you can either go if they said you're fine or get some follow-up training before going.
Okay, and the road test with the registry, you tell them that you have adaptive equipment, and so this is a different road test, or is it the same road test I give any 16-year-old?
They basically will do the road test in your vehicle, have you drive around with your hand controls, and they assess you in your vehicle. And then if they say fine, then they'll take your license and they code it on the back with a specific code saying that you could drive with mechanical aids, adaptive equipment. There's all different codes from different states, but they'll do the eval in your vehicle and then code the back of your license.
Okay, good. Thank you, Eric.
It's like any other driving test. They're going to make you do some stuff, They want to see you parallel park. They want to see you pull out into traffic when you have to look over both shoulders, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump to Ryan, who has a question from somebody in the chat. And then next I'm gonna go to another chat question and then to Tim Donovan. Thanks for bearing with us. Thank you, Eric.
No
Go
problem.
ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Eric, how you doing, man?
Good.
Good. Thanks for coming to this. This is great. So I have two questions from Kay, which is one of our attendees. The first question is an easy one. Do you bring vehicles to people's homes to try out?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we do it all the time. Absolutely.
Great. And the second question is, she asks, with my Quantum Edge power wheelchair, can you remove the passenger seat where I would pull up my power wheelchair in passenger side? And could I use transfer board to transfer to the driver's seat. I'm interested in Honda Odyssey van.
You can remove the transfer seat, the regular seats. Basically, it's real easy to take out. The only question, Ryan, I would have, and like I said, we can always bring a vehicle to the house, is when you're doing the transfer with a slide board, is looking where to see the console. So making sure that you can clear. So let's just say this is, we'll take this out right now. So we'll take this seat out right now. We'll say the wheelchair is right here. You want to get to the driver's seat. Just make sure that there's not enough, impeding to get over and stuff. That would be the only one, but that would be something where we can bring a Honda over. Power chair here, transfer, make sure the knee's clear to get to this seat. So that's really the only question that I would have.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Mary. I don't know if you want to, Mary's asking about the companion vans. Mary, are you available?
Yep, sorry,
Ask
yeah.
your question.
So I was recently looking for a vehicle and they had companion vans and they're so much lower, obviously, because someone is supposedly helping you get in the vehicle. And as a manual chairperson, I'm looking at these vehicles and they're 10 times the size as they were years ago. It seems that high. I mean, like and I'm like, why can't I get a companion van? And I just don't understand the answer. If I can get up the ramp in a companion van, because it doesn't like kneel, then why can't you guys make the seats so that we can drive from, transfer and drive? Because it's a lot cheaper, and I don't need the space room as a power wheelchair person. So I'm just curious, like, why are they not? Does that make sense?
It does. So the companion van, let's just use this as an example. The companion van will have a ramp, just
Right.
like this. This is the same type of Chrysler or Dodge. Now, for people that don't know what a companion van is, basically, you'll see in this certain application, the front seat is out. I took the passenger seat out in a companion van. From these pillars right over here, they have not been lowered. All that gets lowered is this right over here. So the seat would be on a platform. So if there was a transfer seat that would come out, it would be on a platform that's 10 inches higher than the floor. So that's basically, that would be the tough part, because you come in, the floor is lowered only here, but then the front is not. So the transfer seat would have to come out and it'd be 10 inches higher than the floor that you're on with the wheelchair. So
That's really, the whole point of it being a companion van is effectively the front half of the vehicle is non-modified and you're effectively just a companion in the vehicle, right? So it keeps it in its normal factory setting, so to speak, up front, and then the chair on the lower portion in the middle. Does that help?
So Mary, sorry, I kind of missed who was. Sorry, are we ready for the next question? I wasn't sure who was just talking.
I think so. If we answer her
It
question
was
on
Mary, and
the,
I think she's muted, Heidi.
Yeah, my thing kicked me out.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, okay.
Stupid computer. Yeah, I sort of missed it. So I get it that I know that you can make lower or less, what's it called? I just think it's a lot of money. It's $30,000 to $40,000 more to buy a big van than it is the companion vans. And I'm just, to behoove them, my suggestion, I know you know the big wigs up at Braun and your guys are close. Can you just tell them to make them less expensive? If that makes sense.
understood.
That's okay.
Noted. Thanks, Mary.
Noted.
Tim Donovan.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for doing this presentation. It's helpful to us. Two questions. One of them, the first one was, what is the usual when you go to an evaluation? What is the usual process? You go to the evaluation, they assess you for your needs, and then you go forward and whatever and get those specified and start the building process. Is it a one-time evaluation, or do you have multiple evaluations till you get to that process?
Good question, Timmy. What happens with driving evaluations? Let's just say you go through the whole process. You meet with them, depends, you could meet with them 2-3 times, but if you're more of a higher tech type of, I know with your equipment, Timmy, I know you have more of a higher tech equipment in yours, so it may take a few more meetings. Basically, once they've evaluated you and they write up the script, that is good for 1 year. So hopefully, basically, once you get the script put in, you get the equipment put in within a year. But then if it goes beyond that, let's just say something happens, somebody ends up not doing the driving equipment installation and they come back 3 years later, then you have to do the process over again. But yeah, you're right, Timmy. You do the process from conception to completion, and then we get the script and make sure it's done within a year.
I just didn't know if the first time, I've been scheduled to have a first time evaluation, but I know there's been a few issues with the van, the new vans they're using. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what that first visit would be like. And then I guess second sort of unrelated question is, are there any SUVs with comparable interior spacing inside, or even as close to the minivans?
The good question. So the Chevrolet Traverse, which I was showing before, actually, we'll walk over there to show you, Timmy, again. So Timmy, this is the Chevrolet Traverse. They used to do, years ago, Braun did the Ford Explorer. Well, what the Chevy Traverse does now is they actually made it where they increased the interior room by about 20%. So this is more geared towards the dimensions of a minivan compared to the older SUV, which was the Ford Explorer. And like we were showing before, you can easily, take the seat out, Timmy, and you can drive from your chair and stuff. So, but yeah, I would say in terms of minivan comparison, the Chevy Traverse definitely over the Ford Explorer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Let's see the next question here. So I'm just trying to keep track of the questions. What funding, help, grants, etc., are available for people paying out of pocket? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so basically, if you're not a veteran, if you're not going through like, we were just talking with Timmy with mass rehab, stuff like that, if you're paying out of pocket, I know with United Spinal, I know the, you guys have a grant to help out. I think it's the B2B or B2N, I think is one of those.
Yes, we do. We
We do have vehicle mod grants, yes, up to $4,000.
Yep. And then I know Travis Roy, I was talking to his dad a few months ago. I know they shut down the Travis Roy, but Travis did do a lot for some of our clients. We're always trying to find grant sources and stuff. But yeah, I knew of Travis. I knew of your grant as well. Annie's Angels or something. I think in New Hampshire, basically we have a program that it's called Annie's Angels that will help out in some respect. So, but that's the $1 million question, because of the fact that we all know this is a expensive and stuff. And if it's not through a state program or federal, like the VA, the Travis Roys of the world, the V2Ns and stuff, all that, it's definitely helps out a lot, for sure. So I know depending on disability, like the MS Society has a grant. So it's really, in terms of spinal cord, it was more of the Travis Roy and then your grant. That's what I know of.
And keep in mind, we do have vans that are, anything from a 2023, maybe down to a 2015, 16. We do have used vehicles as well. So, they're not all in that $80,000, $90,000 range. There could be options available to you. Just give us a call and touch base with Eric, and we can, see what we have.
We also sometimes have people on our website where we have for sale and donations who are selling vehicles as well. Thank you. Let's see, Joe. Joe
Well,
Rowland.
again, I usually end up being the one with a lot of questions anyway.
Yeah.
Question for you as far as the ramps. I know there's a couple different style ramps, but I reside in Wisconsin. And so we're looking at one that's got an in-floor extended like the ramp you showed. And what are the problems with sand, salt, snow during the winter, icing up? Do you see much of that? And if so, what do you do to make sure you don't get stuck in your van?
Good question. So we live in New England, and in the 21 years I've been doing this, I've sold in-floor ramps. And I've always told my families that buy them, make sure you can try to keep the ramp as clean as possible. Like we'll see right over here. They do have in-floor ramps. You'll see that they actually have this little lip over here. So you can see, look at all the wires and everything in there. There's basically a worm gear that actually pushes the ramp in and out, but you can still get moisture. You can still get stuff in underneath this flap. I've always told people, you know what? If you're a passenger, you can have somebody with a broom and they can try to broom it before it goes in. If you're a driver, that's super tough. What we recommend is to be consistent on coming in for maintenance. And what all our guys will do, a dealer in Wisconsin will do, is they'll basically take this whole panel. This whole panel, you can see all of the bolts. This whole panel comes off, and then basically they would do all of the vacuuming, make sure nothing is getting in there. It's really tough because when water gets on the ramp and it gets inside, it gets trapped. So the longevity of an in-floor ramp is not as much as a folding ramp, because a lot of the gravity just pulls a lot of stuff down. But try your best with an in-floor ramp to try to keep it clean before it comes in. Now the other, and I'm glad you asked the question. Now, well, let's just say something happens and the door and the ramp is not coming out. It's easier if you had a folding ramp to just kind of push the ramp to let yourself down. An in-floor ramp, you'll see over here, somebody would have to be with you to actually, to pull it in and pull it out and stuff, So if you're a driver, it's really tough to do an in-floor ramp manually compared to a folding ramp where you can just kind of push it down and stuff. So hopefully that kind of.
Greg, does it impact your ground clearance?
No, when they lower the floor, basically what happens is the lowered floor sits right above the frame of a vehicle. So it doesn't make it go any lower. The lowest spot in all these vehicles is the muffler, because you have to reroute the muffler underneath the lowered floor. So in terms of ground clearance, we get all the charts from the manufacturers. From the ground to the bottom of
a muffler is anywhere from 5 to 6 inches, depending on the vehicle. So it really doesn't matter, you know, if it's an in the floor folding ramp. It's just basically, you know, when you reroute the mufflers underneath, that's where your clearance gets taken.
Okay, then my last question was, I know there's a number of different ways of anchoring a manual wheelchair after you get into the driver's seat and turn away. Do you have any one that you found to work better than others?
So manual chairs you can do. Let's see here. We'll go back to what we had before. You can put one of these lockdowns in the middle of the van, and then you can transfer. So have this base in the middle, locks the chair in, and then you can transfer. There is also another option. I know with state agencies like Mass Rehab, they're really strict on how to anchor down a manual chair. So they basically require something like this. The other option is you can use your factory belts, and then you can put it around the chair, and then you can use, you know, something like this, where you can actually put it and lock it in like this. So you can actually anchor your chair with a manual system like this, which I've seen people do before. So in case something happens, the chair is going to go about this far and stuff. So.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. I don't want to be chasing my wheelchair after I get after I end up driving for a while. So
sure.
Perfect. Thanks.
Oh, no problem.
Thanks, Joe. Just want to mention, I know that, he still has his hand raised, so I'm just trying to keep track here. David Weisselman also put in the chat a couple of other resources that may help pay for some adaptions. Also the Matt Brown Foundation, the Triumph Foundation. So thank you for sharing. I am going to, sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with the chats in here. I'm going to move to Pam. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Eric.
Hey,
Hi. I'm still alive. Okay. I have two questions, actually. The first one has to do with insurance costs. Do you recommend, or do you know whether people insure their equipment separate from the car? You know, should you have a, you know, extra policy, or how does that work?
So with all of the equipment that we put in, I've always, in 20 years, I've always said to my families, tell the insurance company, you know, here's the cost of the vehicle, here's the cost of the modifications. Like if it's a minivan, here's the cost of the Toyota, here's the cost of the lowered floor and any of the driving stuff. Insure the total amount. But I know like somebody that has, let's just say they had a Subaru Outback with hand controls, and I would still insure it with the hand controls for sure. Because what they'll do is, and this has happened before, I told a client of mine years ago, tell the insurance company, get it in writing. Your vehicle was a Chrysler with all the adapters. It was like about $70,000 for the vehicle. So I said, get it in writing. Well, the person that took the insurance was no longer there. He was at the hospital. Somebody basically totaled his vehicle while it was parked. The insurance company didn't have it in writing, ended up giving him just the cost of the vehicle without the modifications. So they didn't add it to the policy. So he was unable to buy a vehicle, basically. So I always tell people, make sure you have it in writing. So if it does happen, they'll give you, you know, the full cost of what it's supposed to be. So,
okay,
the best thing to do is just submit your receipt from the van. When you take delivery of the van from Greg, you send a copy to your insurance company. You're insuring an $85,000 vehicle, not a $40,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And then my other question is having to do with the ramps again, the folding versus the in-floor.
Sure.
First of all, it looks like the in-floor, is one of them steeper than the other one? Because the in-floor has that extra little ramp, you know, that extra little part at the very top.
Yes.
To me, looks kind of dangerous. I think I would be afraid to. I'm afraid that would tip me over. And is there any advantage to having an in-floor? Because it seems to me like the fold out is really the best one, given that it doesn't get so dirty and it's, you know, easy to unfold if the electronics don't work.
That has been raised many times because with an in-floor ramp, that little flap that we were just looking at, that creates, so if you're coming up the ramp, it actually stops you in your back. Because it's like a little speed bump, basically. You know, with the fold-out ramp, you go right up the ramp, right into the vehicle without stopping. And then, like you were saying, with the fold-out ramp, you could just push it to put it down in case of emergency. But yeah, in-floor ramps are. I did an in-floor ramp. I do it every few years for a veteran. And the only reason why he does an in-floor ramp is when he brings his kids to school, he comes up to the curb, they open up the door, the ramp is not in the way, they jump on, and then they go to school. That's the only reason why he gets an in-floor ramp.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Good questions. I am going to go to, so Pam had a question. Ryan, do you have another?
Yeah, a question and just a little bit of a comment. I asked a question for someone earlier and I found out that they are out of state. Is Mobility Works nationwide, or is it only a New England thing? Or
good question, Ryan. So we started in 1986. We started in New Hampshire. And then when I joined in 2002, we had 5 locations. So we were called Ride Away. So about 6 years ago, we merged with Mobility Works, which was big out west. So now we've grown to about 95 stores. So we have locations from Maine to Florida to Texas to California, Washington. So you're right, Ryan. We've expanded since, you know, you and I, you know, when we worked together. So we've expanded to about 95 stores.
awesome, thanks. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't expecting you to drive down to Florida and visit
I
them.
would.
Wouldn't be the first time he's done it, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat here. Oh, Brian Beek. Could you demonstrate the override controls for the ramp Neil system?
Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's do, I think, Brian, you have a Chrysler. So let's go to a Chrysler and stuff. So we'll keep it simple here for you.
Well, you're good, Eric.
No, I saw Brian just recently too.
Okay, well, still.
Okay. So let's see here. Underneath the bench seat. Let's see if we can see it here. I don't know if it's too dark and stuff here.
Can you see that?
Yep.
So this is the bench sheet right over here, and it says kneel up and ramp. So we'll say you hit the button and the ramp doesn't come in. If you hit this button, you can hear it, and it's getting the vehicle to come up now. So that's bringing your kneel system up, Brian. It says kneel up. So look at your vehicle. You'll see underneath the bench sheet, right? You know, you'll probably have to take the footrest down like this, but then you hit the kneel up, and then this will actually even bring the ramp up too as well. So if we'll say the button on the door doesn't work, you can still bring the ramp up with a different switch.
Does that sort of bypass the computer?
It basically, what it does is it's wired differently. You're right.
it'll be on a different circuit.
Because a lot of times I found when things fail, it's because there's a certain order that all these circuits have to fire. You know, the ramp has to, the door has to open, the ramp has to go down, and the Neil has to work.
Yeah.
And if they gets out of sequence, one of those things won't happen.
Exactly.
And so that just bypasses all that nonsense and goes
Exactly.
right to the motor.
Yep, goes right to the motor. Yep. So this will go right to the Neil motor. Yep. And right to the ramp.
Thank you.
Can be
I-
life-saving.
I just want to ask, because sometimes people do ask this, this question as they're maybe new to an injury and thinking about what kind of vehicle they may need. I know that for some people, like for my husband, who's a T4 complete para, he's always just, had just a regular vehicle. Like he has not had a van, and then has just had hand controls put in. So can you say anything about that?
Sure. Yeah, so hand controls, like the first car we looked at was the BMW. Any type of vehicle that has automatic transmission, power brakes, and power steering. If it has a clutch, we can't do hand controls. I have clients that will have hand controls like, off-road. I have a client who works on a farm and he has one of those side by side, by Polaris. He has hand controls in there and he drives around the farm and stuff like that. So anything that is really automatic transmission, power brakes, power steering, we can do controls in. So,
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you. Pam, do you have another question?
Yes, I do. I've seen some sedans that have the trunk opens and an arm comes out and goes around the side of the car and picks up the wheelchair and puts it back into the trunk. Do you do those? And I can imagine those are extremely expensive. And I was just wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, good question. This past year, I didn't go to the car show because I was in Florida, but last year, Michael had it in his BMW, which was amazing. I've seen
Michael
it.
Mahoney?
Yeah. Oh, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Mike and I know he had it done. There's a special company that does it. We don't actually do that. But I was super impressed with the way it did on his BMW and stuff. So good question. We don't do it, but it can be done. And I know Mike would probably be a good resource for that too. So.
Okay, thank you.
They've come a long way from a car topper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
20%.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I don't know if you're going to know the answer, but are police officers familiar with the code on the back of the license?
They should, because on the back of the license, not only does it tell you the restriction code for driving, it tells you other restriction codes like if you need glasses, for example.
Yep.
So yeah, so there, it's not just for your driving codes. There's other codes on the back that they look at.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with, a question from Kay, have you ever worked with Hope Help Live?
Yes. Yep. They're like, you can do some fundraising and it's basically they help because they're like a nonprofit and stuff. A lot of these fundraising things, will charge you fees. But yeah, no, we've done a lot. Actually, our vice president was really involved. Jesse was really involved with their organization and stuff. So yeah, we've done stuff with them before.
And Eric, I don't know if you can answer this question, and if you can, I completely understand. There seems to be, in Massachusetts anyhow, a lot of confusion with people, and some of it's related to COVID, of people trying to figure out how to get their license. And that may be out of the purview of what you do, but I don't know if you have any insight on that. But Barry's raising his hand. I know Barry had a hell of a time dealing with all of that. I don't know.
Well, one of the questions was with the six-way seat, they haven't invented an L1 or an L2. Like press that button and it puts you in back where you want to be. It's a struggle every time just to get it to back to where I was. And the
Like a
drive,
preset. You're talking about
Pardon?
having a,
Presets for the seat.
Oh,
Yeah.
like memory seats.
Yep.
like I get into the seat and I press a button. It gets all 6 buttons working and puts me back in the right spot. You know, like say you get a nice car like a Lexus or something like that. It's got 2 buttons, one for you, one for your partner. So you press it and it gets you in a nice comfortable spot where you like it.
Gary, Honda does that. But they don't, they do only in-floor in-floor ramps for Honda now. So you can't get the fold-out ramps because I just bought a vehicle and I wanted Honda. Yeah, I 100% agree. It sucks trying to remember what position you need.
Yeah, I mean,
Six-way seat.
every button you're using again, and each time it's a little bit different. You know, okay, I think I'm right there. Oh, okay, that's about right. But it'd be so much easier. You said, okay, this is the position. And then zoom, 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 you put it right there. And oh my God, it would save so much time.
Unless he comes back and gets them.
As well as out,
Brings them right
getting
back
out.
where they go.
Just press a button and it would get you into that position to get out. But now you gotta back up. You gotta bring the back up, the back up, you know, the seat back up, plus you're backing up. Then you gotta go down to get your legs, switched around. Then you've gotta make sure you get back up because then you gotta transfer up to down. It's just, yeah. I tell you,
it's easier to drive from your wheelchair.
It was, definitely.
True.
But that limited me as far as being able to travel with Jan, because if I had the hook, if we didn't have the driver's seat in there, then she couldn't drive. They had to drive for an hour and a half, and she wanted to drive for an hour and a half. We're screwed.
Understood.
Yeah. Unless your passenger seat, you can move your passenger seat, but that I know entails a lot of swearing.
You can. I found somebody that they said they could adapt it, but that was after the fact. I'd already put in the 6-way.
Yeah. No, that's
because
a good
the
argument
plug you
for it.
can't plug in the other one
Mhm.
in the other side and make it do what needs to be done. You know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a conundrum. I'd love to have it work. But, so in other words, there's nothing like that.
Right. Unfortunately, no, I don't know of anything that would allow the 6-way to have memory built into it at this time.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing they did do, I don't know if you saw, the transfer seats now actually have an optional remote as opposed to the toggle switches too. Like this particular vehicle has the regular toggle switches. You know, you can, but then you can also do an aftermarket remote like this that you can offer. So that may help out. We just, we put it onto
The magnet.
magnet and stuff, so.
But Eric, I'm curious, why can't you do it if they do it, in sedans? I don't mean after the fact, but I mean, why can't the manufacturer do that when he's building the car?
A transfer seat in a sedan?
No, I mean, a preset for seat positioning.
Well, I drive a 2007. It's a Honda, it's an Acura. And I do have the memory seats on my car and stuff. It's just depending on probably the model and stuff.
Right, depend on the level, I would think, right? So any vehicle, I'm sure at some level, when you get to like the XL Platinum or those sort of things, they have those options for the presets. Similar to having a heated
but
seat.
In a $70,000 van,
Right.
that already has the 6-way seat.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you be able to do that?
Great question. We can certainly take back to the manufacturer. I'm
The
not-
aftermarket technology is not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the,
Is it possibly a safety issue, seeing that once you push those buttons, it's kind of hard to make them stop going whatever direction it's going? And if your leg or foot gets caught, and you might not know it until after the fact.
Yeah, it almost seems like
Potentially.
that's the reason, because like the technology is there, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it
I'm
could be
sure
a-
that's part of it, Wayne.
yeah.
But,
And there's a,
you know, you can watch as you're going down and you're turning, there could be a kill switch that you just press. There is one actually, because once you've started the car, the 3 switches on the right do not work. You have to press another button to make them work, and then it's going, you know, it's letting you know that thing is needs to be turned back off again. So you can't run, well, you can, but I guess it would be pretty difficult.
yeah, to run the transfer. you
Run
have to
those 3
power
buttons while you're driving.
Yeah,
It's another good
there's an
point.
interlock. You're right. You can't use the power transfer seat while the vehicle's running. It's an interlock.
Hey, Greg, can you just address the, you know, the limitations, the, you know, the, on the highly technical, like the joystick type stuff?
Yeah.
Those are only rated for a certain number of hours or miles?
Uh,
Don't they expire at a certain point? 3, you know,
Good question. So, we've had clients that have had, you know, high-tech equipment in their vehicle. See, like with mass rehab, you do it every 7 years, 7, 8 years. I've had people that have had high-tech equipment for
10%.
about, you know, longer than that. It's really the manufacturer, like electronic mobility controls. If you have like an option A number 1 and they come out with the option A number 2, for example, you want to make, they usually keep parts and everything in stock for at least 10-year shelf life. You know, so if somebody had an electronic driving system 20 years ago, it's probably outdated by now, but 10 years, you're still in, because we've had people have get into an accident, we've sent it back to electronic mobility controls that does that. And they can still install new servo motors, all that stuff. So,
I just thought there was a point that at which you couldn't service it anymore.
yeah, that's the really old ones.
Okay.
But we've had people get involved in accidents and we've sent it out in, you know, it's been 9, 10 years old and they still were able to service it.
Okay.
So you're right. It has to be, I would say at least 10 plus for sure.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? I'm sorry, sorry, it's not me asking one.
I apologize, but we're gonna head back inside to the office only because Eric's phone has 10% left. And I don't want
Okay.
I don't want it to hang up on
That's
you.
right, we're just about there. At
Well,
the
he'll
end.
still be able to answer some questions. I just want to get it to the office. So we can plug her in.
Absolutely, thank you.
You
No, this
got
is
it.
amazing.
This is
Eric,
terrific,
I'm gonna
guys.
put your email address in the chat, if that's
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
This is our waiting area. So if you ever come to visit us, this would be your nice waiting area that you would get to sit in.
very nice.
There we go.
We're
Just
good.
Turn your camera around to you.
Perfect.
Which one is that? Where you at?
So I work out of the Londonderry store. I also work out Woburn. We have a store in Woburn. And then I was actually at our Norwood store yesterday because I have clients I've worked with for years that get referred to me. So I can work out of any of the stores. So
Londonderry is New Hampshire, Woburn is Massachusetts, Norwood is Massachusetts.
Right.
And there, as you mentioned, you know, we have 95 stores throughout the country.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mary and then Wayne.
So I was just curious, I said that the Honda does not have, that Ron is not doing the modifications for Honda to go the folding ramp. Are they doing that are they going that way for all their vehicles? So in the next several years, we're gonna see only in-floor ramps? Do you know at all? I mean,
Good question, Mary. The Toyota came out as a fold out. Then they developed an in-floor ramp after. The only reason why they do the in-floor with the Hondas is just the way they were built. Because we've had Hondas, as you know, Mary,
Yeah, I
there's
had a Honda.
Hondas with a folding ramp. Exactly.
I love my
Um,
Honda. I just got rid of it. I'm mourning right now.
Yeah, Hondas are, I drive a Honda 2007. So basically, what happens is the fold out ramp has always been the most popular. So I don't see the fold out ramp going anywhere.
Do you think at one point, if Honda changes their specs, they'll actually go back to, cross your fingers, fold out ramp for Hondas?
I'm hoping because in floors, we don't, yeah, I'm hoping they go back to fold out ramp, especially where we live up here. It's
Yeah.
definitely something where it's definitely, I would say, if I gauge the number of vehicles I've sold in the 20 years, I'd probably do well more than 90% of fold out. I don't do too much of in floor.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Eric. Wayne.
Yeah, hi. Wondering if I wind up turning around saying, well, I'm ready to get a van today, and I call you on Monday. What's the time frame typically to wind up getting one? Used, obviously, would be fairly quick. For a new, what is it if you wound up, if I said, I'm ready to get one, I got to start?
Sure. So we can pool between the 95 stores that we have. So if there was a vehicle that you like that was in New Jersey, we could have it shipped out. So that's the nice thing about having all the stores. We can get you vehicles pretty quick. Let's just say the vehicle you wanted was not in our inventory. We would call the manufacturer like Braun, for example, and say, do you have a Toyota Sienna white XLE? They said, oh, well, we got some coming in February. We just got to modify them. And I just went through this with a client here. So she wanted a white Honda Odyssey with the Elite package. We didn't have it. Braun had it. They're modifying it now. I placed the order 2 weeks ago. We're going to have it for delivery in February because it takes about 4 or 5 weeks for Braun to convert it. So.
Okay,
So-
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And thank you for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely.
Nathan, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So my question mainly revolves around the price of getting a license because I've been having some struggles trying to go through because I tried going through Spalding Charlestown to get a license, like so I can actually drive an adaptable van, but it's been very expensive. So I tried going through MRC and that's also been very expensive. So I wonder if there's any like organizations or ways that might make it a little cheaper because I would love to drive, but again, it's just the cost that's been my main issue.
Good question. So I know MRC, so I know they typically cover the cost of the driving evaluations. They're not covering it now. I'm just asking because it'll be new to me and stuff. So MRC's charging the clients for driving evals?
Well, they're not necessarily charging the clients, but they are making it very difficult to get that. I mean, basically, I talked to one of them, and they told me that, oh, well, in order to qualify for this, you need to be looking for a job.
Yes.
First.
Yeah.
You need to be, and right now I'm going through college and I'm going through physical therapy. I've got other things going on that I don't have time to like go for a job. So it's not like I can just apply for one and then say, oh, I'm applying for a job, even though I don't have time for that. So I guess you could say that's been another issue.
Sure. Yeah, because you're right. MRC will help if you're working, because you end up working, you're paying taxes, income taxes, stuff like that. So they basically, when you're paying into the system, then they get money from state and federal to help people out. So, but if you're not working, I could see that. I don't know any other avenues to help with the driving evaluation cost. I don't, unless, a fundraiser, if somebody did like a GoFundMe or something, but outside of that, I don't know.
Okay, thank you though.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Nathan, I recommend, even maybe coming to some of our support groups and asking those questions just to hear from other people how they've, different things that they've done, because it's certainly a common thing. It's a big expense. So it could be something that you might learn from others, how they've managed it. Before I go to, we're at 12:30. I just want to ask if there's anybody else here who has a question who hasn't had an opportunity to ask one yet. Please jump in. I'm going to go to Pam, and then we'll wrap this up. Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. I forgot what my question was, but one thing I'll say to Nathan is, I have heard, I have not had this experience myself because I just haven't, but I think that normally the driving instructor recommends that you take, several driving classes. And it's, you should take as many as you need. But if you feel that you've got the hang of it and you know what you're doing, you can stop. You don't have to take more classes. In other words, you don't have to keep paying for them. What your aim is to feel comfortable driving and to pass the road test. And if you think that you're there, then you don't have to keep going on with classes. That should cut down the cost somewhat. And the other thing is, the other thing is we haven't mentioned is that a lot of these dealerships, or it's not the dealership, it's the manufacturer, I guess, will help towards the cost of putting in the hand controls. I think that most of them give up to something like $1,000 or maybe even $1,200 per set of hand controls. And all you do is fill out a form with the manufacturer, and they'll give you a check, or they'll pay somebody like Mobility Works. Is that right, Eric? Do you actually get a check, or does it?
Comes as a rebate.
Comes as a rebate, yeah.
Yeah, so
And
keep
it's
that in
only
mind.
on
Most
new.
of the car companies do offer that. So
It's
that's
around $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's on new. So if somebody bought a used vehicle, Toyota, Honda, that's new, they'll do it on new, but if you bought a used Toyota, Honda, it won't. It's only
Well,
on new.
what I've heard is that they will do it for used cars as long as you buy the used car at the dealership.
Oh, really?
So if you go to the deal, yes, I've done it twice. If you go to the dealership and buy a car that's used, and they have them, people turn them in all the time, then they will pay towards the hand controls.
Okay. All right. So that's through the dealership. Okay. Because I know when we fill out the mobility forms, the check goes to the client within 4 to 6 weeks. Now with COVID, it's more 8 to 10, but they always say new. But if the dealership does a separate program, that's amazing.
Yeah, I've done it twice. And one thing I'll tell you this, they don't tell you about this. The dealership is not going to tell you about this. You have to ask them. And all you say is, I know this, you can do this, and they'll usually agree with you because they've probably done it before. And they can tell you where to fill out the form. It's a very simple form. It's just one page, and just mail it in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and David Weissman also put in the chat, some of the foundations that he listed above will help with driving lessons, cost, etc. I know we're over time. I do want to just say if Joanna has a quick question,
Yes, very quick question. Thank you so much. So I actually I have maybe a little different question, and I'm not sure if you will be able to answer. So I have a son, who is 18, and he has a hemiplegia. He will not require a fully modified vehicle, but he also has the autism. And I'm trying to find the driving lessons for him or driving school for him to figure out if he will be able for both reasons, physical and mental reason, if he will be able to drive independently at some point. So, and I know that before there was adaptive driving school in Dedham, but I saw it lately that they closed. So I'm not sure if you're familiar where I can find any adaptive driving lessons for him.
Mhm. So yeah, Mark Whitehouse, who owned Adaptive Driving Program in Dedham, he is retired. He's down in Florida now. So John Holcomb, who was doing evaluations with him, works for a place called Easy Street. They do driving evaluations, but Central Mass Safety Council is pretty much the one that we see mostly in this area. There's Northeast Rehab, Amanda at Northeast Rehab in Salem, New Hampshire, does driving evaluations. And then there's Drivability in Exeter. Stacy Frazier, she runs the program in Exeter, New Hampshire. So there's Drivability in Exeter, Northeast Rehab in Salem, and then in West Boylston, Central Mass Safety Council. So.
Okay, thank you. We'll look into those. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Eric. I couldn't jot them down quickly enough, but I will make sure that we get that and add that to our list of resources.
And if you're in Maine, there's Heather Shields.
Yep, Heather Shields. Yep. I actually have a sheet when I do the in-services at Spalding. I have a sheet with all the people. I'll send it to you, Heidi. After
Oh, that would be great. Thank you, because I was just like, I could write fast enough.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no,
That would be awesome.
I'll send
Okay.
everything to you. Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody has questions or is looking for information, just please get in touch with me. I'm happy to try to find some answers for you. Eric, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Bob, the cameraman. We're so lucky to have you joining us and sharing your expertise with this community. Yeah, so thanks so much.
My pleasure. We'll see you at the gala. Okay.
Wonderful. All
Can't
right.
wait, Eric. Thanks.
Thanks,
Got it.
Eric.
Thanks.
Take
All
care.
right. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. You got it.